We are live on the Collider Podcast Network. Welcome
Smile,
to
Brad,
the
smile.
Schmoedown Rundown. I'm smiling from ear to ear as I am reading my new book, by the way, that I am studying for. My name is Brad Gilmore. I am joined in Chicago, Illinois, a.k.a. Yandyville, by Chicago's own Frank Janisch.
I think I missed that reference, Brad, but that's okay.
Yandy. Chicago's own Kanye West has an album out called Yandy.
Yeah. Oh, is it Yandy? Okay, I thought you might alluding to the good old Ye, but
no.
I gotta.
He has a new album coming out at the time. Well, I guess we're
it's
live.
Not out though yet.
It's tomorrow. Yeah. It's called Yandy. It's the follow-up to Yeezus. That's how they do it in Chicago, apparently.
That makes sense though. I get the progression, or just
really. Yeah.
That's
an odd debate. I don't think I want to get into that.
Yeah, I didn't really like the way I phrased that either.
I don't want to get into that debate.
I'm not trying to put one
but
or the
anyway,
other.
While we're here, you can celebrate by listening to the Carter 5, a Southern classic, I'm sure, by Lil Wayne. I am Brad Gilmore, joined by Frank Janisch, of course, our producer, Chris Clark. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I wish I knew the hip-hop stuff you guys were talking about, but I plead ignorance. You guys are fantastic. This is live. Let's rock this sucker, Brad. Let's rock it.
You know what? No. I'm not letting you get off like that.
Oh, no.
Your top 5, dead or alive, Chris Clark. Who are your top 5 rappers of all time?
Let's see. Biggie Smalls. Run DMC. I like their Christmas song.
Okay,
I like
Christmas in Hollis.
Yeah,
that's 3. Okay, that's 2. That's 2. I mean,
Chance the Rapper did this song with Elton John. I liked. I would say
there's 3.
CeeLo Green. I like CeeLo Green. Goody Mob.
I'll count it. I'll count it.
I guess I'm looking at Wikipedia. Chuck D, whoever that is.
Chuck D from Public Enemy. You know what's so funny? So his top 5 is Biggie, Run DMC, Chance the Rapper, CeeLo Green, and Chuck D. That's actually a solid list.
Oh, it really is.
It's actually a really solid list.
He's covering all eras, and
I'm not mad at it. I really like it a lot. It's very good. It's very good. You have different regions represented, different time periods, politically charged, non-politically charged. I enjoy it. It was a very good top 5. I did not expect that from Chris Clark. We have a great show for you today. 2 big matches to talk about. Anarchy tournament, right? We're in the Anarchy Rules tournament for the Ultimate Team Schmoedown tournament. And we had a number 1 contenders match, which seems to be filled in a season of number 1 contender matches. I feel like we've had a lot of number 1 contender matches this year. I don't know why it feels that way. At least that it feels that way. But in a season of all of them, this was probably the most highly anticipated number 1 contenders match, I think, all season. And that was Andrew Ghai versus JOHN ROCHA.
Yeah, there was a lot going into this one because of Andrew Ghai's 2 previous performances.
Massive wins.
Or just wins. Wins. That's a good way to put it. Not performances. Wins. Although I will say, I think the Clark Wolf, Mike Kalinowski one was a pretty highly anticipated one, just based on how it all came to be and Mike's previous faltering in the season opener, number 1 contender match, triple threat one where he scored 2 points and then stormed out of there. I think that was
eliminated.
So, but you're right. I think Roca Ghai is one of the most, not just number 1 contender matches, but matches this entire season, one of the most anticipated ones. And I have some thoughts about that.
We're going to get to it. We're inching closer and closer to the end of this season. We're going to be in October beginning next week. It's only 2 months left of this Schmoedown season. I cannot believe that it's been about a year since we started doing this thing, or at least I joined the cause. But let's talk about the team tournament here, because the team tournament was interesting this year. As we know, Anarchy Rules. And I thought that one of the team ups that we saw today was one of the most interesting ones on paper. We talked about Andrew Ghai. Let's talk about Ben Bateman, the boss. Has also had a breakout year in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown in teams and in singles, although not doing phenomenally in singles, I guess, but doing very good. He had the loss to Roca, and every time it seemed like he was heading up the ladder there was going to be some minor setback. But then you have him, and then you have a returning champion, a 2-time champion in Mark Yodi Riley, and the only match that we saw from him was not a stellar performance either. So both these men coming off kind of a little bit of a low of their season, but I love Ben Bateman and Mark Riley together. Let's just start there. Let's talk about the team up, Frank. When you see this on paper, you got to think that this is an early favorite.
Yeah, I was very excited to see these two paired up. Ben is really a student of the game, wants to get better, is always thinking about the game. Mark Riley is a legend of this game, the first champ we ever saw in the Schmoedown, dating back to the 2014 season. So with his pedigree and Ben's willingness to get better at the game, and given his brief history as team action with Andrew Ghai, everything that entails, coming together with Mark Riley, and then on top of that, you didn't even mention Finstock, but he's part of this trimunity.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, and so it's a very interesting dynamic going on there. We saw that on full display in this match, but on paper, I think I didn't look at too many brackets out there, to be honest, but I would imagine a lot of people had them going pretty far, if not into the finals, and maybe even winning the damn thing, because on paper, they are good enough to win this tournament, I believe.
I have a bracket, and I'm not going to reveal it until the tournament's over, so I can show everybody what my bracket was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I did like them. I have them going far. And did you get a chance to check out the Riley Roundtable?
I did not, but I heard a lot of good things about that episode.
Yeah, I listened to Riley Roundtable here on Collider Podcast Network. And I listened to him and Ben Bateman were on. They talked about kind of Ben's rise and, his eventual career in the Schmoedown. But they talked about, their love for the game from each of them. And what I found interesting, and I guess this is some of my, as one colleague once said, naivete, when it came to the Schmoedown, which was, I guess, when you first watch it, you can tell Roca is all in. You can tell this man loves the game. There are certain players. You can tell Ben Bateman is all in. You can tell that he takes this game very seriously. Rachel Cushing, Clark Wolf, these are people you can tell take the game very seriously. And even though he was a two-time champ, I just always saw Mark Riley as someone who was like, I love the game. It's not everything. I love the game. But when I listened to the Riley Roundtable, I didn't realize how much he was invested in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, how much he took those losses to heart. Especially that loss against Andrew Ghai. He said he was upset for like a week over it. And I really learned a lot about Mark Riley, and I almost gained more respect for him as a player, even though I had tremendous respect for him already. But him and Ben, the way they would talk about things, the way that they thought about things in regards to the Schmoedown, even things like, have you ever thought about what question you would like to win on? I mean, that's how invested, you're invested. And, Ben Bateman wants to win to some Les Mis question so he can sing the answer. That is how invested these guys are. So I think that you have two people who are locked in like that, competing together, especially one who, Ben Bateman, big on action movies, maybe not big on horror. Yeah. Mark Riley, big on horror, maybe not so much action movies. New releases, which we'll get into, Mark Riley is also very good at. I thought that this team was very good, and I really loved listening to the Riley Roundtable. And if you haven't listened to it, go out of your way to check it out, because that was a very fun and easy listen for my morning commute. But let's talk about the third element here before we get to their opponents. So about Finstock. Finstock is their manager, and whether you like Bobby Gucci or you hate Bobby Gucci, whether you love Tom Dagnino or you hate Finstock. Finstock.
Oh, it's just Finstock. This is just Finstock.
But
I get
there's a wrestler. There's a wrestler back in the day, Mick Foley. You remember Mick Foley?
Oh yeah.
Right. And he played in the 1998 Royal Rumble. Right. The Royal Rumble. There's 30 seats. It's similar to that of the Free for All. There are 30 spots. People come out every 90 seconds to 2 minutes. In one match, you saw Mankind get eliminated. Then you saw Cactus Jack come out and get eliminated. Then you saw Dude Love came out and he got eliminated, but they're all three Mick Foley. All three of them are the same guy. And that's what I'm saying with Bobby Gucci, Tom Dagnino. He is the Mick Foley of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. Absolutely. Characters galore. But let's talk about his addition. How'd you think that Finstock would fit in to Ben Bateman and Mark Riley?
I saw Finstock fitting in with Bateman quite well, because their personas in the league are on similar wavelengths in a sense.
Right. I go for that.
And Riley obviously being a hero of the league, a white knight, if you will, a champion of the league previously, and two-time champion. He carries with him a lot of respect, whereas Finstock is not a type of person who is, let's say, politically correct. And Bateman, he's always.
But is Finstock well respected?
No,
you don't think so?
No, no.
Bobby Gucci included. I'm talking about all that is Dagnino.
Well,
you don't find him to be respected? He did. He was the manager of the greatest team of all time and maybe the greatest faction of all time.
Yeah, but I'll give him. That's more of a Dagnino than a Finstock thing. Although, Finstock was there for a large part of that too. Finstock says garbage stuff all the time. That's what he does. Tom Dagnino wasn't that kind of character. So you got to split it that way. The way I look at it.
So the character of Finstock does not get respected because he does not deserve respect.
Yeah,
okay,
as Christian would say.
He is a buffoon. He is a buffoon.
Why would you respect a buffoon? Why? That's why you call him a buffoon, because you don't respect him.
Hashtag buffoons need love too.
True. I'm
sure we all need a little bit.
I'm sure there's a lady Finstock out there somewhere.
I'm sure there's a lady buffoon who loves him. But do you think that it was a good addition for him and Ben, but maybe Riley isn't, the chemistry wouldn't be there?
Because there's another layer to this group, because Bateman allegedly.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So there was a pre-match scene where we saw Ben Bateman and Mark Riley kind of discussing things with each other. And Mark Riley was kind of hinting towards some animosity. And when Ben Bateman confronts him about what is this perceived animosity that he is feeling, Mark Riley says, "Because you stole my dog, man."
Yeah.
Which I thought was just hilarious. He's like, "Yeah, you stole Cal. You stole my dog." And then what did Ben say? Allegedly.
Once again, saw a picture.
We were talking about FCC regulations, right, earlier, and I found out allegedly is not a get out of jail free card. You can't just say allegedly to anything and get away with it.
Really?
Just throwing it out there. You just can't say blah blah blah. Burned his house down or whatever. Allegedly, it's not a get out of jail free card. But he allegedly stole his dog, and then when Mark Riley and Ben were talking about that, Finstock comes in and was like, "Hey man, hey, let's talk about the really important things here. Who ate my meatball sub?"
Right. Again,
which is the most Finny stocky thing that you'll ever hear.
Yeah.
And then they go on for a little bit. But I did love, you got to admit, that interaction was very fun.
Oh, great.
the chemistry there, the timing there. You have two veterans. You have somebody who has become quickly a fast track veteran, if I can even say that. Somebody who's absolved the game like no other in Ben Bateman. I think that and this is another thing, is that they're going to be super credible as a legitimate team and a team to beat, but they bring the entertainment value, which is why I always love team action. And I think that sometimes, and I hope I'm not going over too far here, but I think sometimes entertainment value in terms of the Schmoedown, Mark Riley could sometimes leave something to be desired because he's very white meat baby face.
Sure.
And a white meat baby face, there's not a lot of interest there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think throwing him in there with Bateman, it gives Mark Riley creatively and from a character standpoint more to chew on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you're just there by yourself cutting those promos, it's a pretty tough act to put on. But when you can bounce off someone like Finstock, who's just completely absurd, and then you got Bateman, who's not quite as absurd, but just a little outlandish and little... he says some things here where you can play off and still come across as a babyface. It's a good dynamic for Riley to be in. Absolutely.
It's a winning formula for him as far as a character goes. And I think
real quick, he almost had this old get off my lawn kind of mentality.
Old man.
Yeah, this old man thing going on.
What was the name of that Clint Eastwood movie?
Gran Torino.
Gran Torino, exactly. He had the Gran Torino Eastwood vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I do love it. I love the chemistry. But let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about, what did I call them earlier? The crazy 80s children? Or the
crazy 80s
awesome
babies or something?
I call them the awesome 80s babies.
Yeah, the awesome 80s.
Let's talk about them, the crazy 80 greats.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what do we feel about the name? Do we like the name?
No.
I'm not wild about the name.
I'm not wild about the name. I'm honestly, I'm not that crazy about who's the boss name either. But that's just
no. Who's the boss is good.
It's fine, but it's not that original. It's a TV show. That's great. You took a TV show's name.
Ben's the boss.
You couldn't come up with something else though with the boss
in it. What would you name Mark Riley and
I don't know. Let's leave it to the comments. So what the people in the chat?
Oh yeah, we are live. So we encourage you to hop in the chat and tell us what would be a better name than Who's the Boss for Ben Bateman and Mark Riley.
Mm-hmm. But they're not going to change the name, obviously. But
but for fun, we like to do that. If you and I were a team, I have our team name. By the way,
the Pinheads.
That is not a bad idea, but I was gonna say Fruit of the Looms. But let's talk about the Crazy 80 Greats.
Calvin Klein.
Calvin Klein.
Calvin and come on, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Or how about Hope Chest? Pants on my Hope Chest.
Oh god.
Pants on my Hope Chest.
I like it.
Oh, that would be
a good bar trivia name, is what it really is.
That would be a great bar trivia name.
Yeah.
Or Back to the Future team tournament maybe someday. Pants on my Hope Chest. But let's talk about Crazy 80 Greats. Eric Zipper and Haley. You really like that one, don't you?
No, I just remember the scene. Where are my pants? Over there on my Hope Chest. I've never seen purple underwear before.
Maybe they call you Cal. Cal. We came full circle.
Oh, that's right, Cal. Yeah.
We came full circle. Okay, Crazy 80 Greats. On subject, Frank Janisch. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Eric Zipper and Haley?
I didn't really know what to expect from both of them, and this is what I love about the Anarchy format. The teams getting all jumbled up, all the players.
Right.
When I saw them play, I said, this is a pretty good pairing. And, we're jumping way ahead here, but they left open the possibility that this could be a team up in the future. Now, getting into this match, I knew Eric Zipper he's a good player. He's a good young player in this league. I like Eric Zipper a lot. And I've had a few times. I've talked to him a few times before, and just a really good dude, and likes playing in the Schmoedown. Him and Winston are a good team, but given Winston's previous team performance, and then you look at Haley in this match, I'm kind of scratching my head.
I don't know, but Haley, when we talk about the Scream Queens, I found Haley to be the stronger of the two.
With Scream Queens, yeah. We're talking. So
I really think out of the two teams, you talk about Scream Queens and you're talking about Eric Zipper and Winston. I think that you got the two stronger members of those teams together.
Yes, what we've seen from them, absolutely, and we've seen Eric's knowledge in inner geekdom. That's a big factor that can be. We know Haley, is really good with a horror element. I mean, she has the podcast with Perry, The Witching Hour, which you can find on this channel and elsewhere on the podcast feed. So, she has that. I don't know how Eric is with horror, but we found out Haley's feels confident with comic book movies. So they have some overlapping knowledge, and I think maybe some areas where their strengths are different than each other, would be interesting to see them more together to figure that out. But I had no idea what this was going to be. I just thought, it's two rookie players coming together from their rookie teams for this tournament. I knew about Eric because we've seen him in way more matches than we've seen Haley, and this is only Haley's third match. This is Eric's fourth, sixth, seventh match or something like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
And he was in free for all as Haley was, but I was curious to see how this would go, just because I knew more about Eric Zipper, didn't know that much about Haley, and at the end of this match, I wanted to see more from both of them as a team.
Yeah, no, I think them as a team is very strong. So why don't we just go ahead and let's get into it. Let's get into round number one. Frank Janisch, when it comes to the stats, you're the statistician of the Schmoedown Rundown and the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, which, by the way, any fan out there who's never been to a live taping, it is very interesting to see Frank Janisch. I've only been to one, but it's very interesting to see Frank Janisch's I feel like you're needed at the tapings, because I remember the one that I went to, and it could have changed. This is just the one time I saw it, but like every 2 seconds, somebody would be like, Frank, what's the stat on that? Hey, Frank, you have the stat on that? Hey, Frank, how did I do in the last game? Hey, Frank, well, I remember it. I remember everyone from Christian to Bibiani to everybody was asking you stuff. So Frank Janisch is very needed at these Schmoedown tapings. I don't think they could go on without him. But as far as the stats go for round number 1, between the crazy 80 greats and who's the boss, what was the score after round number 1?
So
give me the rundown.
Yeah, it was 13-10 at the end of 1. Ben Bateman had 6 points. Mark Riley had 7. Haley Fouch and Eric Zipper both had 5 apiece. And this was a fantastic first round from both teams. I always say if you need at minimum to score 10 points coming out of the first round at the bare minimum, and Haley and Eric, they did exactly that. We saw Riley bounce back from his just.
His 3-point round 1.
Horrible, against Andrew Ghai. So it's good to see him get 7 out of 8. I mean, he had 7 in a row before he got tripped up on that animated, what do you call it? That movie, why can't it? Christmas, Jack Skellington, whatever. I can't think of it right now. Anyways, he got tripped up on that.
Christmas?
Nightmare Before Christmas. Thank you.
I just want to see if I was going to let you die.
Yeah,
on it.
you were. I was like,
this
son of a... real team player.
Yes,
but it was a great first round to watch, especially from, like I said, I didn't know what we were going to get out of Haley and Eric. They brought 10 points, and then you had Bateman and Riley being
13 solid.
13's a great point number to put up, especially as a debuting team.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, when we're talking about Mark Riley and Ben Bateman, I got a shout out to Chris Skaliski, who's watching right now live and commented about a potential team name for the two of them. And I got to put it out there. He said, Boss plus Yodi equals Bodie.
I dig it.
Solid name, Skaliski. Solid name. You
are
the
writer. It reminds me of Rogue One, but
It does. It does. It almost reminds me of Yandi.
How
Bodie,
about that?
Yandi.
I was gonna say reminds me of Gandhi, but yeah, I guess Yandi's good too.
Yeah. I don't know, who's Gandhi? I'm unfamiliar. I heard the name, but unfamiliar with the work. His reputation didn't precede him, I guess. But I think 13 points is a great. 13 and 10, and I think that it was it Ken Knapsack who actually I think pointed out, hey, 10 points is still really good after the first round going into round 2, and I think that just because Ben Bateman and Who's the Boss had a dominant performance in round number 1, we cannot underscore the performance by the crazy 80 greats as well, because 10 points could win you most matches, wouldn't you say, in a team?
I mean, it certainly gives you a better chance.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good jumping off point.
Right, exactly. It's going to keep you very competitive, especially up against a team that either has a strong history in the first rounds, and we were kind of assuming we would get that from Bateman and Riley, but you never know. Evidence Riley's last round 1 he played.
Yeah, and by the way,
and Bateman too as well. He had 4 in his.
How could anybody though? How could anybody who is a movie fan of any kind not know in Uncle Buck it was all about the pancakes? Who said omelet? Whoever said omelet needs to get the hell out of here. Eric Zipper, get the hell out of here. Come on, an omelet. An omelet? I mean, he had a snow shovel with pancakes. Come on, it's John Candy. It's my good buddy Macaulay Culkin who gave me these bunny ears.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
My good friend and buddy Macaulay Culkin. We gotta respect the classics. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if Chris Clark can put Run DMC in his top 5, we have to respect the classics. And as far as a John Candy Macaulay Culkin comedy, Uncle Buck is number 1.
Amen.
Let's keep going. Let's talk about round number 2 though, because this was another thing that they talked about in the Riley Roundtable. Ben Bateman said that he and Andrew Ghai ushered in the deferring in round number 2, aka the Patriots strategy and the NFL Patriots, not the Schmoedown Patriots, of deferring. Then he says, now if you listen to Sam Levine, he'll take credit for the deferring, but Sam Levine will, and I'm paraphrasing, will say anything, is essentially what he said. So Ben Bateman throwing some slugs out there to the former 2-division champ. And I don't know who is accurate. Who ushered in the deferring first? Because it's become a trend.
You know what? I've done this stat for the singles league. I haven't done for team league, but this year, I'm talking about the singles league, when you defer in the second round, you end up winning like 85% of the time.
No way.
Yeah, it's interesting too because the season before that was nowhere near that. It was like 60% or something like that. I gotta double check that number, but like this year in singles, I'm talking about singles again. It's like in the 80s. It's pretty crazy. Where it wasn't like that the season before. Who started the deferring in the second round? I don't know, and I don't think it even matters. Who wants to? I mean, with the players, if they want to, go back and forth, who started that, fine. I kind of want to, off the top of my head, just want to say top 10 because they've been playing like the longest and most consistent that they would have done it. But I don't know that to be factually true if they started doing that on a consistent level. But does it matter to me? No. Does it matter to you? I don't know.
Chris Clark, were you trying to chime in right there?
No, I wasn't. I was just coughing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree though with
Sorry
anything you
about
guys are saying.
Okay, I appreciate your blind appreciation of us. I don't think that it matters either. But sometimes people want credit. But Ronald Reagan, the great President Ronald Reagan, once said there is no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he does not mind who gets the credit. I'm just throwing that one out there to Ben the Boss Bateman out there. I'm just throwing it out there. That's a quote that I remember from one of the presidents of yesteryear. It's a good quote, though. It's a good quote. Sure. It's a great quote. It's a great. Well, you don't like the quote?
This one thing also about who started deferring. It also depends heavily on you coming out with a lead from the first round. So you could have had,
as Eric just said in our comments on YouTube.
Yes, I see that. Eric Frederick, yes. Absolutely correct. So, I mean, first of all, you have to be good enough consistently coming out of the first round to even start that trend to begin with. So, if you follow above the lines career from the tournament, I mean, they dominated. So,
well, actually, can I just say that if there's you said there's an 80% success rate when they defer, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Around those, Frank is the most imprecise statistician there is. But
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if that actual stat is accurate, this is probably the first time it's been broadcast. That might actually, if the competitors are listening to it, you might see more people defer in the future. So that's actually really interesting. And
here it is. As of right now, this season, as of the Roca Ghai match, if you defer, you win 80. They've won 82% of the time.
That's such a high number.
Last year, that's just regular season, not counting the tournament.
Right.
Last year, that number was at 47%, and the year before that, 2016, that number was at 67%. So
interesting. So it's kind of gone up and down, but this is definitely a high, all-time high.
Yeah.
This is an all-time high. But like Eric Frederick said, especially if you have a lead, I mean that kind of helps out a lot. And typically, if you have a lead, you like to defer. It just kind of seems to be what happens. By the way, shout out to Eric Frederick. His little-known fact: the Frederick family roots go back to Texas. Fredericksburg is a town in Texas that's known for its peaches, has the best peaches in the world. So shout out to Eric Frederick and your Texas roots. But let's talk about the crazy 80 greats, because in round number 2, after Who's the Boss defers, they spin James Bond first. And they quickly, Eric Zipper, by the way, strapping young man, a hell of a spin. Hell of a spin, Zip. That was a great spin. But lands on James Bond, spins away faster than you can believe, which, if you have somewhat of a general understanding of James Bond, I think should be a category that you select, because we talk about it all the time, not a category that's available to select a lot of times, and you're going to have more of the surface level questions at that point. By the way, Mike Kalinowski, anytime, any place, I'd kick your ass in a James Bond match. But I'm just throwing it out there. It's true. It's facts. Facts only. Facts only. Like the Jigga Man once tweeted me. Facts only. I think that they go away from it, and he ends up getting comic book movies, which you think would play into world's greatest You would think he would play into their hand. World's Finest. I'm sorry, 80 Greats. World's Finest. I got confused.
There's a lot.
But you would think that it would fall into their laps, especially Eric Zipper there, and the round didn't turn out so well for them.
Yeah, it was definitely a missed opportunity on their part, and they know that. But real quick, going back to Eric Zipper spinning away from James Bond, I believe when we had Team Action on, it was either Andrew Ghai or Ben Bateman. I feel like more like Ben said this. Don't be so quick to spin again, because when you're at the wheel and you land on a category and in the act of defiance you spin again, you are revealing a weakness of yours.
Great point.
So maybe, like I said, I'm not going to take credit for that. I really do think Ben said that. But do not be so quick to spin again on any category you don't want to take on your first spin. That would I think that's a great way to put it, because now it leaves your opponent to really figure out, because if they got opponent's choice on that second spin, where do you think Ben...
They're going straight to James Bond.
Exactly. So,
but that's a rookie mistake, though, by Eric Zipper.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Sure. And I don't think that it's something that enough people think about.
I think that's more the point, is people don't think about it. But players like Ben Bateman, they think about it. They think about
players like Ben Bateman, players like Mark Riley, the John Rochas, the list can go on and on of the elite players. They think of the small things. They notice the small details. Mike Kalinowski's another one.
Exactly. Small things add up to winning matches, winning titles. It's always like that in anything you do.
Absolutely.
Why not the Schmoedown? So get into that second round, though. A huge missed opportunity. And I think I don't want to read too much into Eric Zipper's facial expression, but it seemed like he knew that they were kind of screwing the pooch on this one, because this should have been a done deal in terms of having a great round. They only get 7 points here. They have to go to multiple choice 3 times, which is fine because some of these questions were a little deep, especially the last two. I thought were just, a little bit more off the beaten trail than usual, because they weren't your, tentpole comic book movies, and that's fine. That's part of the category. But I think, the one that really that kind of hurts a lot to see them miss was the Sam Raimi Spider-Man Uncle Ben question. To pick Martin Sheen, I don't know how they got there. And a lot of those multiple choice options you could have done just by educated guessing, elimination style. Again, the one with the Green Lantern question, the Amanda Waller question.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes.
Definitely, not this person, because they just did this one, and that one was tough. Those two misses were tough to see. But and they got a great second spin.
I have a rule of thumb, though, that the answer is always Angela Bassett. That's my rule, because she's in every movie, and she hasn't aged in 30 years. She looks the exact same. The answer is always Angela Bassett. But I think that was a big miss, though.
It's also always Kathy Bates as well. So
That's true. Yeah.
In this case,
yeah. But in this case, it was Angela Bassett. But I think that, missing that, and then you had the Cowboys and Aliens question that they had to go to multiple choice on. I think at that point it would have been worth a guess, because Harrison Ford's in the movie. It's probably Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I don't blame them for going there, because they've already surrendered 2 points, and if you surrender 2 there,
it's a nail in the coffin. Yeah,
right.
Maybe you're right. But I'm thinking if you're trying to catch up on ground, you might just risk going for it. And if you don't have the multiple choice, then you don't give them, a too big of a shot of getting in unless they know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they could have. I think they could have been. Had they got that wrong, let me see if I do the math real quick. Could they have been knocked out on this one? I think
I don't.
They would have been knocked out. Yeah, they would have been knocked out.
If there was a 2 point?
If they gave
they would have been knocked out after Who's the Boss went in round 2.
Yeah, they would have been knocked out.
Okay. Yeah. So it's probably, in hindsight, a safe bet for them to go multiple choice. But, once again, I'm thinking you got to, catch up here. But let's talk about Who's the Boss. Who's the Boss goes up and they spin. And what do they get, Frankie Janisch?
They get new releases. Interesting category.
Interesting category. And as soon as they spun it, I knew that they were going to go with it because, once again, in the Riley Roundtable, whether this was a positive or a negative to put out there, Mark Riley said, I love getting new releases. Give me new releases all the time. I want the new releases. And as soon as I saw this, I knew that that's exactly what was going to happen.
Given Riley's day job and Ben Bateman's day job, more or less, they see a lot of new movies all the time, and so you would like to think that they could answer these questions pretty well, and they did, even though they had to kind of maneuver through, not maneuver, but they went to multiple choice just twice, which is a fine in six questions, and they had the luxury of doing that with a big lead as it progressed through that round. So I think for people that are in that movie space, who go to screenings all the time, you should be able to answer some new release questions. And I'm curious, I know there's a range, and I don't know if Chris Kaliski is still in the chat room, but can he give us the time frame for which is the end dates? How far back is it? A year and a half? I know it's at least a year. Is it more?
I thought it was within the last year. Is what I thought that it was. Mm-hmm. Now that could be wrong. Yeah. But I feel like it was within the last year. But that is germane to the category. Yeah. And if you don't know that going in, you don't want a new release category where you have something from 2 years ago and you're like, oh crap, I don't remember. Right. I don't remember what happened in that Leonardo DiCaprio movie with the bear. I just remember there was a bear in it.
Yeah.
You don't want it too far. There was a big bear there. So you don't want it too far back, but they do rather well in new releases.
Yeah, and I thought them conferring on a lot of those questions, I mean, aside from the Avengers question, Infinity War question, where Riley was like, obviously at Alan Silvestri, trying to, get back a little bit of what he lost from that Andrew Ghai match and the scores and soundtracks. Yes, that was a toss-up. And
so William,
you could agree with Eric Zipper too that these were some cupcake questions. So
William the Beast Bibiani, the current singles champion, says that the range is 12 to 18 months. So a year and a half. You're right on that, Frank. It goes up to a year and a half. Shout out to Bibbs, the Chris, champ. Yeah. Tune in. Oh, did Chris say something? Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris Skaliski. You did say something. And shout out to Chris as well. But I lost my train of thought. Oh, no, what I did enjoy, though, was you talk about the conferring between the two teams. Mm-hmm. I did like, even though Mark Riley, I knew he was going to go with the category, he did confer with Ben and Finstock. They all huddled up to make sure that they wanted to get chose this. Yeah.
And also another point that I thought was they should do is because at first when Riley's looking over at Ben, they're looking at each other with their sunglasses on. I'm like, you're getting nothing accomplished right now.
Yeah.
And then you see Riley take off his sunglasses. I'm like, there you go.
That's such a great point.
It's like, what are you looking at? What is this, telepathy? Oh my goodness. I was like, come on, guys, let's get it together. But they did, and
yeah, and then they went and they did. Like I said, we did well. They're now. What was the score in round 3? Going into round 3,
round 3, it was 25 to 17.
Ooh, brother. Almost a 10-point gap.
Yeah, so I mean, up to that point, Ben and Riley had only missed 3 questions. That was it.
That's domination.
Yeah,
it's domination,
and including getting 2 steals.
So why don't you talk about the crazy 80 babies, the crazy 80 grades? Why don't you talk about their round 3?
Yeah, fantastic third round. Not a lot of teams, not a lot of individuals can go 3 for 3. That's exactly what they did here. It seems like they're the questions that Eric got, that Haley got, really lined up for them. They got really good luck there with the comic book being on that 5-pointer, and not exactly an easy 5-pointer for a comic book. And Haley was very proud that she was able to stick it to Skaliski, apparently. But I thought this just shows to me the potential that this team could have if they were to compete again. That they could do some serious damage, and that this team is they're lucky this isn't some sort of round robin style tournament, because another team to face them, this isn't a team you want to face. This isn't a team you want to take a chance on, because they can put up some big numbers. I think if we were able to see a little bit more from them, and this really, after this third round performance, this really left me desiring more from this duo. And I don't know if we're going to get it, but it was a fantastic way to throw it back to a team with Riley and Bateman that was dominating. And
who probably, took their foot off the gas a little bit. Because you go in 25-17, you're probably like, okay, we got this in the bag,
yeah,
right?
because not a lot of people or teams go 3 for 3 in the final round. It just really doesn't happen. They were sitting very comfortable where they were at, and Riley. I mean, we can get into them.
Yeah, we'll get into them right now and talk about how they performed.
Yeah, so Mark Riley, he gets the Charlize Theron question with McFarlane. What movie it was? He said 100 ways, and when it was 1,000,000 ways to die in the West. That was only to tie the game. So
by the way, Christopher Lloyd, Back to the Future cameo in that movie. Continue.
Oh, okay. And Ben Bateman, he comes through at the end to put the nail in the coffin there with a 3-pointer that gives him the 1-point victory, 28-27. Never having to go to the 5-pointer would have been interesting. And I think kind of not a great sign had they had to go to the 5-pointer. I'm not really gonna put too much on Riley for saying 100 as opposed to 1,000,000.
Right.
He not, technically he didn't, but the title at least. But he knew what the answer was, and it's just one of those things. And he's lucky he didn't come back to bite them. But had they had to go to that 5-pointer by missing the 2 and 3-pointer, I might look at this team a little differently. Not too much, but that could be a problem going forward when you face better teams in this tournament, because it's gonna go into the third round. You're gonna have to answer at least 2 to all 3 of these final round questions, especially as you get deep into the tournament if they do go that far. But they don't get there. It's a great win for them, a great performance from both teams. This was a great match.
Yeah, no, this was a fantastic match. I think this was the best match so far of the tournament. I think. Mm-hmm. And I think that for the Crazy 80 Greats, they shouldn't hold their head too much, because they did a great job. And for it to fall in, I don't want to say it fell into their laps, but we don't ever talk about who goes first and who goes second as far as teams go in the third round and how consequential that could be. Mm-hmm. We saw with Sean Gerber and Scott Mance. Had they flipped it around a little bit, I mean, I'm not saying it would have been a different game, but it'd been more competitive. Sure. But Scott Mance was just like, I don't know who the hell Regina George is, and but Gerber did. So Sean Gerber did. So sometimes that's really the luck of the draw there, and that's not that can't be a strategy. That's just you get lucky.
Little bit when you hear the category. When you hear the category, you gotta. However. You can get burned by a strength category as well, so it's not a done deal when you go, I know this is your strength, so you should take it, but
Yeah, but then the second category, you're blind. You're going second, you're blind.
That's it, yeah. You're right, because you're gambling on the first as best as you can based on the category. You're like, well, you're good at this category, but your 3-pointer could be a category you're even stronger in, you would be more beneficial in than I would be. So, yeah, I mean, you are gambling in a sense based off of that first question, which is what makes this third round format really compelling.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the third round format in teams, and I think team matches a lot of the times lead themselves to be more exciting because of that unknown factor. But who's the boss takes home the W. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what they do going forward. Anything more that you'd want to cover on this team match before we get to a pretty big match here?
Well, let me just point out that Ben and Mark, they went 22 of 26 questions correct. That's just about 85% correct. Again, only missing 4 questions the whole match. 2 for 2 on steals. The Crazy 80 Greats, they went 17 of 25 for a 68% accuracy, which is pretty good, for a debuting team nonetheless. 28 to 27, 55 combined points. That is a great match by any standard.
Absolutely. And like you said, I'm interested to see in this Anarchy tournament who stays together, after a loss. What teams are we going to see stay together? We don't know. And this would be one that if I were them, I would explore the possibility of remaining together.
Because I think the prevailing
faction it up.
Possibly.
Let's get Scream Queens and world's greatest, finest 80s babies together.
I mean, I think the prevailing thought was that whoever has a deep run and the tournament would has a better chance. There's odds on that they might stay together after the tournament. I don't think anyone was thinking, hey, a first round team that gets knocked out, could they stay together? No one. I don't think anyone's thinking that. I don't think anyone was thinking that a team that gets knocked out in the first round would think about staying together as a team. But when you look at Haley Fouch and Eric Zipper, you kind of have to ask yourself that question. They should at least entertain that thought.
Absolutely, and it is interesting. But one of the things also that no one ever thought, right? No one ever thought would happen. One of the craziest things that no one ever thought would happen is that Andrew Ghai would have such a great run in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown in singles tournament.
I don't know if I would call it a run, but it was a nice jog.
You're such an ass sometimes, James. I'll be honest with you. That was unnecessary.
This is the part of the show where I think
this was unnecessary. But you know what? I don't think that anybody, except for me, at the beginning of the season, would have called a potential championship opportunity for Andrew Ghai. I called it. I did. But not a lot of people are like me. So let's talk to you know what though. Hey, that's not very Yandi of you, Frank. No. Well, why don't we talk to somebody who we both became fans of the Schmoedown because of this person in large part.
I call him my day one.
Your day one. Well, isn't that romantic of you?
It is.
Why don't we talk to the one and only, the Outlaw, the former champ of teams and singles? Let's talk to him about this match that he had this week against my guy, Andrew Ghai. Chris Clark, I believe we have a John Rocha interview right now.
John Rocha.
Yes.
You have defeated the pest, the villain, the biggest heel this league has seen in quite some time.
Since me.
Since you, and Andrew Ghai. It was a match that I thought a lot of people felt Andrew Ghai was going to win because he was on a hot streak.
Yeah.
And you had some okay performances, even though you were winning.
Mm-hmm.
First round, you outscore him 6-4.
Yeah.
Second round, you outscore him 7-3. He gets Christopher Nolan, though.
He does.
What did you think about when he got Christopher Nolan? Did you think he was going to make a game of it at getting Christopher Nolan?
Well, listen, I was only up 2 points, and so anything can happen going into that second round, depending on the spin. He got Christopher Nolan. I just kind of rolled with it, to be honest with you. I made sure that when I walked into that match, sat down at that table, nothing he got, nothing he did would affect me. That included the spin. He got Nolan. I was like, okay, let's see if he can answer all these questions, because I've seen people get their strengths and not answer questions like Mance did against me the second time when he got movie release dates. He started celebrating all around, and he ended up missing 2 of those questions. And so for me, that's what I was approaching that situation like. So he got it, great. Let's see if he can answer them. And sure enough, he didn't know 2 of the questions. So like that can happen sometimes in the game. And then I kind of spotted him one back by not knowing the order of the trilogy for Sergio Leone, which is funny because I was studying the Sergio Leone trilogy before this match actually last night, but I was more focused on the names of the family members in one of those movies and focused on the nickname for the characters in those movies. I didn't even think to look at the order of those. And those are those things you constantly learn as you play this game. You constantly learn this stuff when you play this game. And so that's something that came back to bite me, but thankfully it didn't cost me the match.
Yeah, I want to talk about taking Westerns, because you talk about how a strength could not play as a strength.
Mm-hmm.
Were you worried at all that Westerns might play out the way it did for Andrew? Did you waver about spinning again?
Well, sure, yeah, I was. I never wavered about spinning again, although that's actually not 100% true. I actually looked at Western and was like, do I want to take this? Because I've answered so many of these questions. But then I did a lot of studying last night for Westerns just in case. And so when I got it, I was like, no. After I had that momentary question, I just was like, no, let's ride this out and see what we can do. And like I said, it wasn't just him, it was me writing myself out too. Like, what's going to happen is going to happen. Let it play out the way it's supposed to play out. And I was lucky that the Dirty Dingus McGee, I don't think a lot of people would have known that was Frank Sinatra. And so I got some good answers there, and that made up for missing that first question.
Now, you had a 6-point lead going into the third round. Were you aware of the score? Were you aware that he was going to have to pretty much go the distance in the third round to even force your hand? Did that make you in any way somewhat comfortable or confident that this was going to go your way?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say confident. I just kind of sat back, and I didn't want to make the mistake that I made with Riley. When I played Riley after the time I'd won the belt and he was coming for the belt, I had assumed that I was going to beat him going into that third round, and he got that Shark Tale question. I thought for sure he didn't know the answer, and I started to celebrate inside too early. And that is something I'm never going to do again. So when going into that third round, the 6-point lead to me, I was like, let's see what happens. It doesn't mean I'm out of it. I could get some tough 2- and 3-point questions and categories. I don't know, and he could end up pulling an upset. We've seen it happen before in the third round. People answer all the questions and pull an upset. So I just kind of wrote it out and let myself be chill, and it ended up being a TKO, and it just worked out in my favor both times against him and against Ben.
Now you're playing for the belt once again. This has been a few times now you've been in this position. What do you have to say to people who are maybe bothered or irritated that once again you're in the title hunt? What do you have to say to those people that you're playing for the belt again, that they want to see some new blood? What do you have to say about that?
Well, the new blood tried to be there. Like Christian gives, that's something that I push back against all the time. Christian gives opportunities to all these guys to win the belt, to go and get the belt, and all these ladies too. He puts them all in position. They just have to win matches. You have to win. You have to beat whoever's in front of you, however it's set up. This was set up as like a mini tournament, and I ended up handling the business, and I'm in the position that I'm in. I haven't fought for the singles belt in a year and a half. I've fought matches to get there, but I haven't been a contender for the belt in a year and a half. So people may say that, oh, why Roca again? But I'm winning my matches. Until people beat me, then that's another situation, right? So I imagine, I don't understand people getting upset. Yeah, it's time for new blood, but let that new blood win. Then when the new blood wins, then they'll get in the situation. The Shire Wolves did that. They came together, they mowed down whoever was in front of them, and they took that belt that the above the line abdicated, and they won. And so that's the thing, is like you can only beat the people in front of you to get in position. And if people are upset about it, there's nothing I can do about that, because there's just as many people who are excited and pumped for me to be going for the belt and possibly becoming a 2-time champion. And there's no one I want to beat more than Bibiani. There's no one I want to beat more than the man who insulted the game when he first started playing, laughing at questions, scoffing at questions, then had to eat a bunch of crow when he choked in the first rounds in that singles competition in the tag team tournament. He had to face his own humility, and finally, he came back. It was only until he started respecting the game that he started winning matches, and that tells you the difference. This game, the Schmoedown, I love the Schmoedown. I respect the Schmoedown. I don't ever bash the Schmoedown. There's a difference here. Bibiani was laughing and stuff, and so, but now we see him growing more confident. Yeah. Now we see the old Bibiani coming back. The swagger, the scoffing, the yelling at competitors when they miss a question from his cocky place, forgetting how he blew multiple matches in third rounds. And that's the guy I want. I want the cocky Bibiani who thinks he's going to mow me down. And if you watch that post-game interview, he thinks he's going to destroy me. And there's nothing more dangerous than an outlaw when he's the underdog. There's nothing more dangerous. I have no pressure on me. I'm rolling into this match. This is his first title defense, and it's against me. And I want that belt so bad. And what did I say when I started this whole damn thing? All the belts, all the records.
Well, there you have it. That's John Rocha, victor over Andrew Ghai. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you, Frank.
Hey, guys, it's Riley here. If you like my show, you are going to love the Natalie Eva Marie Show on Podcast One. The former WWE and Total Divas star, along with husband Jonathan Coyle, team up to deliver one-of-a-kind opinions not heard on any other podcast. With a rotating guest list including celebrities, influencers, and activists, get ready to be informed, intrigued, and entertained. Check out the Natalie Eva Marie Show every Wednesday on Podcast One or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Hey everyone, this is John Rocha for Collider. If you like this show, you need to check out Penn's Sunday School with magician and entertainer Penn Jillette. Each week, Penn talks to celebrities, magicians, and other entertainers about whatever he wants. Past guests include Phil Rosenthal, Dr. Joel Furman, and writer and director Kevin Smith. So check out Penn's Sunday School weekly on Podcast One or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Brad Gilmore, he challenged me to movie trivia.
So Frank, there was something that we kind of discussed before that I wanted to just lay out on the table here. My, what would you call it, strong suit?
Brad Gilmore, he thinks he knows Back to the Future, which is only like 3 movies, so that's pretty easy.
It will be an all Back to the Future rundown Schmoedown.
Frank Janisch. I'm going to take you down brick by brick, block by block.
They are very nice to each other, aren't they? Just pleasant and sweet?
You go put on your little blazers and your little plastic loafers.
Oh, brother! Brad Gilmore brought the rundown to a whole nother level.
That's simply not going to happen here, little boy. We'll run along and do something else with your time.
And let's get ready to run down!
And we are back live here on the. Oh, I'm sorry. We're back live here on the Schmoedown Rundown.
Doesn't make any sense. We're back here live. Oh, we're back here live. Come on.
What are you talking about? I don't
know
even what you're referring to.
You can't act surprised while you're reading the book, saying, "Oh, we're back live," and then put the book down like, "Oh, we're back live." I don't know if that's
First of all, that was a book. This is a graphic novel. I want you to, say the proper noun. Call it what it is. All right, person, place, or thing. Graphic novel. Frank Janisch, let's talk about your interview with JOHN ROCHA. Sure. Talk to me about it.
Well, it was right after the match there, and it was interesting being there for that match, as a lot of people have seen by now. I don't think the atmosphere was what everyone thought it was going to be. They bring in Mark Donica, the enforcer, to be the enforcer, and Christian was joking about he's going to have to bring in the cops for this one, and I mean, there's really not a whole lot to say about the interview itself. I mean, I think it just, you hear it for yourself, and that's just thoughts on the match and going forward, playing for another title. I think this is his fourth time he'll be in a title match, if I'm not mistaken. You can double check me on that one. In singles, I'm talking about. And I think John, he's hungry for this belt, and I see someone in the chat saying that the league had to reformat the rules, that they got rid of the 3-win thing just so he could compete for the belt again. Sure, you can say that all you want, but the fact is, there was this little mini tournament that was going on, and he made his way to a number one contenders match against Andrew Ghai, same way Andrew Ghai did, although his road was a little bit shorter, and I'm not going to disagree why it was shorter because of beating Merle and Riley, and that's fine. But Roca, he beat who was ever in front of him.
Absolutely.
And now he's in a title match. So you can say all you want about favoritism or not. I don't see it, because think of all the times Top 10 has arguably gotten screwed on some calls. There's I just don't think that narrative plays anymore, that Roca has shown favoritism. I mean, I just don't think that plays anymore, and that's my opinion. And other people will have theirs, and that's fine. But that's the way I see it.
Geez, Janisch, don't get hot about it, man.
No, I'm just
relax, chill out, brother. No, but I understand. Like JOHN ROCHA, and it's weird. I mean, I can see the criticism. I can see it. I don't agree with it, but I can see it. I can see why somebody would think that way. Like it's like with. Well, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into it, but I can see why somebody would think.
Just quickly say though, I think that
I don't agree with it. Though.
Stipulation was unfair to him because no one else really had to go through that. That wasn't mandated on somebody else as like a rule for them. It was only to him. Why? Because he had been competing for the title so often in that period of time that he was in, or when all that was going on. So it's like, how do we stop that? We're not showing favoritism to Roca. Well, we're going to put on this unfair 3-match win rule thing, right? And it's just not. It's not fair, and from a games making standpoint, in my opinion. And so I don't care that they got rid of it. I'm just glad that the league set forth a path to get to a title match against Bibbs, and Roca went through it. And now he's there, and Roca had the opportunity. Ben Bateman had that opportunity. Mark Riley had that opportunity. Jeff Snyder had that opportunity. Well, Jeff Snyder's a different case, but nonetheless, people have had that opportunity that could have got there, and it just so happens that Roca got there. And had he not got there, we're not talking about this. So,
right.
Yeah,
and I think that if anybody says that John Roca doesn't deserve a title, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like Conor McGregor in a way, right? Like, Conor's beaten so many people, and he's competed at the top so many times. People are like, well, why does he get a title match when he, his first match back? Because he's Conor McGregor, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's the outlaw, and it makes sense. Let's leave it at that. What did you think, though, overall about the match? Because there was a lot at stake here. There's a lot of story. You could take this back all the way to the Spectacular of last year. You could even take it back further than that. The tensions between Andrew Ghai and John Roca, and then Andrew Ghai coming with his shocking win against Dan Murrell, beating Mark Riley, almost taking out the Five Horsemen single-handedly, or the Founding Fathers, if you will, and then going against John Roca. It's weird because I am #Action Army all day. But I kind of felt like Ghai had all the momentum and all the steam going into this match. And as much as John Roca is beloved by the Schmoedown community, or at least a certain part of it, a large majority of it, I feel like people wanted Andrew Ghai to win this match.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I was there, I was talking to a few people. A lot of people agreed that for the Schmoedown, storyline-wise, is for Andrew Ghai to win. And I reluctantly agreed with that because I was rooting for Roca. But I understood that what's better for the Schmoedown at this point, story-wise, it's Andrew Ghai winning. But
there is a great story.
If you don't agree with that,
But there is a great story with Bibiani and Roca.
Oh, absolutely. But to have someone like Andrew Ghai come up and go 3-0 against former champs, I mean, that would have been incredible. And so that's something that you want to see, that I wanted to see, even at the expense of one of my favorite players, if not the favorite player in the league. And that's tough to grapple with because, I wanted John to win, but not at the expense of Andrew Ghai winning. And although it would have been great. So it's like, crap.
It was weird. It was weird. I found myself, though, in the same position. As big of an Andrew Ghai fan as I've been, and an Action Army participant that I am, John Roca was the first guy where I was like, oh man, I love this. This guy brought me in. He was the wrestling, he was the story, he was the character that got me in. So I did find myself in a tale of two cities, if you will. But I really thought that for storyline perspective, obviously Andrew Ghai would have been the better way to go. If this were wrestling, this would be the way that I would go. I'd go with Andrew Ghai, the new guy, the kid getting to the dance for the first time. But as far as the Schmoedown goes, either win would have been a good storyline, or is a good storyline for the Spectacular. You have history of Bibiani with John Roca, and then Andrew Ghai just would have been this great success story out of nowhere. What did you, though, think overall of the match?
Well, I want to get into this Andrew Ghai's theatrics, antics, or lack thereof in this match. And a lot of people thought that this match was going to be just, if I can borrow a wrestling term, hell in a cell.
Yes.
This is what this was supposed to be. And if you recall a couple episodes ago, I was saying Roca's not going to give in to what Andrew plays. I don't think he's going to do it. He's not going to fall. He's seen what happens, and I think the real question really was, Roca could have that plan going into the match. The real question is, would Roca be able to focus enough to not let it affect him? And to his credit, that's exactly what happened during the match. And I'm sure that's a big part of the reason why he was able to come out on top of this match, aside from some other things we'll get into. But, this was a very, tempered match in terms of energy. We've heard it referenced in the match. Andrew was, or even Christian was referencing it. And I was thinking of this when I was watching the match there. I felt like no one wants to take a shot at one another for fear of looking like an idiot at the end of the match when you lose. That's exactly what I thought was going on. And this, and it just...
Which, by the way, shows you how credible Andrew Ghai has become in the eyes of serious competitors.
Absolutely. And I think Andrew Ghai, he says he didn't, in his post-match, he says he doesn't really care about the winning, that he's in the best spot. That all very well may be true, but he wanted to win. Like, he cared about winning, and maybe that's more of the character playing than it is real life, and that's fine, and I get it. But don't take that, if you're listening to that, where he's like, I'm still in the best place, blah, 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 and that. True, because you did beat 2 former champs, and no one can take that away from you. But you wanted to beat Roca. And here's the other thing. Andrew Ghai, if he can't play with a lead, or if the other player is not playing into what he's trying to dish at them, that act does not work at all. It's not going to have a high chance of succeeding. It just won't, because if the player... You look at Dan Murrell match, he didn't play in at all to what Andrew Ghai was doing really at all. But the fact that Andrew Ghai had a lead and consistently had a lead throughout the entire match, he was able to jab him the entire way through and just chip away at Dan Murrell. With the Riley match, he had the lead, and Riley was playing into it a lot, and it was detrimental to Riley, and Andrew Ghai was able to take advantage of it, although it was more tempered than the Murrell match. And as we got into this Roca match, he couldn't do anything. Because A, I think both, like I said, they were feared of looking like idiots, and B, he didn't play with the lead at all. So it's like, how can I talk crap and be down 2 points? Especially going into Roca's turn in the second round.
You don't want to be an idiot, because sometimes when you're an idiot, it comes from upbringing. Oh wow! Which means your parents are probably idiots too. Which, by the way, you're an idiot. It comes from upbringing. Shirts are available at bradjgilmore.com.
What a sellout.
Go to You're an Idiot. It comes from go to bradjgilmore.com to get You're an Idiot. It comes from Upbringing shirts. They're available right this moment. bradjgilmore.com. Put money in my pocket, brother. But I agree with you. I think that Andrew Ghai definitely wanted this win, but let's not think that just because he is no longer in title contention right now that he cannot be back there rather easily. I mean, he came out of nowhere.
No. It's going to be tough for him.
Just like it was tough for him to beat Dan Murrell? Just like it was tough for him to beat Mark Riley?
You really think that if Andrew Ghai was to play Dan Murrell and Mark Riley again, that he's going to go 2-0 against him again? He's going to have back-to-back wins against Dan Murrell and Mark Riley. Yes. You are full of crap. You know it. No. You know it.
Oh, I'm sorry. John Rocha happened to get Westerns.
What did Andrew Ghai get? He got Christopher Nolan for second match in a row. That's his strength, and it didn't work out.
It's a minor strength. You know how when you're in college you major in something, and then you minor in something.
Come on,
that was his minor. Some people minored in French linguistics. It doesn't mean if they get a French question they know it off the top of their head. But John Rocha, his name is the Outlaw because Westerns is his strength. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Andrew Ghai lost the match because John Rocha got his strength of all strengths. The only person in the entire league who has that strength, and that's Westerns. I'm sorry that he got that. But to say that Andrew Ghai could not easily get back into title contention after he came out of nowhere and beat 2 of the greatest of all time at the game, I think that is an asinine comment, Frank Janisch.
Here's the thing. Andrew Ghai was able to.
By the way, the chat is on my side. The chat is on my side. I don't care what
the chat's doing. I don't.
Because obviously you have blind hatred for Andrew Ghai, just like you did Mark Hanapic.
Right.
Blind hatred.
You're lucky I like you, Brad. You're lucky I like you. You really are.
Do you?
I'm rethinking that. Andrew Ghai is not going to have an easy road back to title contention. No one has an easy road in the singles league back to title contention. Why would Andrew Ghai have it easy? That's not a sensible thing to say. It really isn't. His accuracy is bad. All the top contenders in the league who are continually at the top fighting for the belt have exceptional accuracy rates. He does not. He has to have a lot of things go right for him in matches, i.e. Dan Murrell, or i.e. Mark Riley match, where Riley just couldn't. He answered like 38% of his questions. And then Ghai answered like 43%. So both bad. It was good enough to beat him, but to be in contention for the title, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to answer more than what is he at? Like 59%? Come on.
Are you familiar with the Oliver Stone film Any Given Sunday?
Sure, but can he have like 3 Sundays like that in a row? I don't think so, because he didn't do it this time. His third Sunday failed him. So you can't tell me he can do it 3 Sundays in a row.
Okay,
he failed to do it this time.
You're saying a guy who, out of his last 3 singles matches, beat Dan Murrell and Mark Riley, and then lost to John Rocha, right?
Yeah.
Somebody like that. Oh, just throw him to the back. Get to the back of the line, kid. Get to the back of the line. You suck. You beat 2 former champions, but you couldn't beat 3. Get to the back of the line, jerk. Come on now.
Okay, but I'm also.
I agree with you that it's not an easy road for anybody, and I agree with that 100%. But what I'm saying is to think this was a one and done run for Andrew Ghai, I think is discrediting what he has been able to do in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown this season.
If you don't think Andrew Ghai got lucky that Mark Riley didn't play to his potential in that match, hold on, let me finish. If you don't think Mark Riley didn't play to his potential in that match, you're fooling yourself, because you just saw what he did in the team match. And can Andrew Ghai, but can he be consistent? No, he cannot, because he went from answering 80% to 43%, then down to like 50% against Roca. How does that translate into someone who's consistently playing at a high level? It doesn't for me.
But then you have the same criticism of Mara Kanopik, who just won a championship.
However, with Mara, her performance has steadily increased in high accuracy rate. Aside from the Rachel Cushing match, which I think is reasonable to put to the side due to the fact that both had physical ailments. One was sick, one was in a car crash. That aside, Mara's performances increased in a better performance from match to match, culminating in her best match against Jason Inman in the title match. So the fact that she was able to increase her performances, unlike Andrew Ghai, who has done that, he's regressed severely. Those are 2 different examples that don't equate.
I don't know. I think that you're refusing to give somebody credit who I believe deserves it. And if you're an 80% accuracy rating against Dan Murrell,
but doesn't do against nobody else though, what's that about? Can you explain that?
No, I can't explain.
Exactly. I can't.
But he beat 2 guys in a row who are credible challengers. Agreed or disagreed?
I will agree with you.
Okay. He lost to John Rocha. We can admit that. So his success rate against former champions is 66%. Can we agree on that?
Sure.
Really, if you want to round up, it's 67%.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Right? So the majority of the time, he wins against former champions. That's a stat. Okay. That's a fact, and that's a stat.
I just want to let you know, though, Brad, when you try and when I bring up how does he play against non-champion and he's 0-2, what's more damning, the 0-2 against non-champions or come on, he can beat champs but not non-champs. Come on,
0-2 doesn't matter. He doesn't care about the non-champs. He cares about throwing rocks at the throne. All right, coming for your head top. All right, that's what he cares about. So when he needs to perform at a high level, he does. And sometimes somebody gets their overall strength in the Schmoedown, like Westerns, and the deck is bad there for Andrew Ghai. Now Andrew Ghai definitely missed questions that he should have gotten. I agree with this. And Christopher Nolan, the ScarJo question, obviously should have got it. But hey. I don't think that we should just throw him to the back of the line. That's my point. My point is not that he did great in the John Rocha match, therefore he deserves another opportunity. My point of contention is he's done very good in his last 3 matches.
Not really. No.
Okay, 2 wins against former champions. What the hell do I know? I guess he's throw him to the back of the line. Get the hell out of the league,
You
Andrew
can look
Ghai.
at the W's,
Andrew
and
Ghai,
that's fine.
retire.
You can look at the W's, and that's are you like if you think 2-1 is a pattern that's going to trend for him, where he's going to end up 4-2 or 6-3, that's not indicative of how he's performed in those matches, because he's performed 50% or below in his last two. You think that's going to translate to another 2-1 run? Maybe if he's playing lesser players, maybe. But it still begs to ask, well, does he perform in those matches? And then how is that translating to when he's in if he gets another number one contenders match? I don't see right now enough from him because he's not even, if he was at about 65, and that's being generous, but more like 70% is like the threshold. When you look at all the previous champs, every single one, they're right near 70% or above. And that's just been the standard for champs in this league. And Andrew Ghai is not there yet. Could he be the one to break that mold? Possibly. I'm not saying it's impossible, but highly unlikely.
Okay, well, we're just going to agree to disagree right here.
Yeah, I know.
And we'll see. We'll just see how it plays out. We will see. We'll reconvene this debate and argument on Andrew Ghai's.
Do we get into the match? You want to talk about the match?
We've talked over it, but why don't? Yeah. I mean, round one was what it was. I think there was some glaring misses there by Andrew Ghai that he should have gotten. I think he was down by 2 after round number 1.
6-4 at the end of round 1.
6-4. So really not a great performance by other man in round number 1. I guess not so bad by John Rocha. 4 though, not good. Andrew Ghai. Yeah. And then when you go into round 2, he gets Chris Nolan, Andrew Ghai does, but doesn't do good in that, goes to multiple choice on a couple and even misses it then.
No, actually, he went to multiple choice on his first question, got it right, but then...
Well, okay.
No.
What was his first question in Nolan?
Oh, the first one? I forget. It was on Tuesday. Sorry, there's a lot going on. Yeah, but he gets 2 of his 4 for 3 points. Christopher Nolan, against Riley, he went 3 of 4 for 6 points. So obviously, a different set, a different variation of Nolan questions that he seemed to get tripped up here. And then John Rocha, this could have been worse too for Andrew Ghai had Rocha stole both steal opportunities. He only stole 1 for 2 points, which was devastating to begin with.
The Blackhawk down.
Question. Yeah, that would. I mean, that's right. I think that wasn't that later. No, that was this. Okay. Rocha, 7 points. Sorry. He had 5 on his turn in Westerns for 3 of 4 for 5 points. Tacked on the 2 steal points, so that outscores him 7-3. So he's up 13-7.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, let's hope he gets a bad category. And then he got his strength. He got Westerns, and I'm not criticizing him for getting his strength. I mean, he could have gotten anything, and he happened to land on Westerns. That's just the way the cookie crumbles, as the great Bruce Almighty once said. But I think that, once I saw that, we knew where this was heading, right?
I had a decent idea that it would be good for Rocha, because Westerns is not something that I think Andrew Ghai is up on. Where he could hang.
I think that pretty much anybody except for John Rocha is not up on.
Drew and probably Bibbs as well.
Drew McQueenie.
But the fact is, it's still a beneficial move for Rocha to take, because it's not something that I think Andrew Ghai is particularly strong in. He had an opportunity for a steal there in the first question. Didn't happen for Andrew Ghai, so which would have been a huge 2 point to get back that he lost. So it could have went south for Rocha in Westerns like it did for Andrew Ghai and Nolan, but that's not what happened. And your strengths can play like that. It happens all the time.
Yeah. No, it does, but it worked out in his benefit. Going into round number 3, the score was very favorably in John Rocha's side.
Yeah, this 6-point lead for Rocha. Only one player has come back from a 6-point lead in a 3-round match. And do you know who that was?
Who was it?
That was the JTE Cody Miller match, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was a
Classic.
horrible all-around match.
Classic
but yes, a
match.
classic nonetheless. A classic for all the wrong reasons, actually.
Yeah.
And then, actually, Makuga did it against Fake Stock, and Finn Draco, and it was a no, it was maybe it wasn't. No, I think.
Wasn't that 5? I think that was a 5.
It was a 5-rounder. That was against Dagnino. It was the grudge match. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And he did it. That was at a 5-rounder though. So for Andrew Ghai to be down 6 to come back, only one person had done it. It did not look good when I was sitting there in the audience saying this highly unlikely because he would have to get all 3 right, and then Roca would just have to do very minimal work there in the 3rd round. But it never got to that point, and it's very ironic that while Andrew Ghai was able to TKO Dan Merle and Mark Riley, John Roca has now TKO'd Ben Bateman and Andrew Ghai.
Yeah, very interesting. So let's talk about, though, one last thing before we get out of here. Spectacular. Roca. Or wait, no, not Spectacular. I'm sorry. But we're leading into Spectacular.
Yeah.
Right? Who's going to be the champion walking in to the Spectacular? If you had to guess right now. Bias aside, just look at it, 30,000-foot view, as you're used to because of your day job. What do you think is going to occur? Who's going to be the champion going into the Spectacular?
I said this, I think, a while ago, too. Once Andrew Ghai got past Mark Riley, I thought this is Roca's for the taking. He's been in similar position before, where he's been the underdog, where he's been doubted, and I just think it's going to be John Roca is going to win over Bibbs. I do.
Dare I?
Just I won't. You don't even have to ask Chris. I know. I know. He's probably muted me, and I don't even know yet. I'm probably cut out of this episode right now.
I was gonna say, dare I ask Chris Clark his opinion?
Okay, well, let me go into this. Objectively speaking, and I'm not saying this out of bias because Bibbs is a friend, I think, just going by Roca's performance in round 1 and just kind of his performance in general his past couple matches compared to what Bibbs has done, Roca might have had a chance against Bibbs if he was sitting down. I feel like Bibbs has so much momentum behind him that I don't foresee him losing the belt to Roca. But it's not, as I hate to say this, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for Roca to actually take it from Bibbs. It's one of the most even championship matches we've ever had. One of the things that's been hyped since 2016, probably. Like, it's been hyped for like 2 years now. So, as I'm not gonna say Bibbs is not gonna win because I think he is gonna win. But if Roca does pull it out, I would not be surprised.
If John Roca pulls what out? No, I'm kidding. I couldn't help myself. It was so juvenile, but I just couldn't help myself.
I need to make a correction, though, real quick. I said Roca TKO'd Bateman. That's not correct. He TKO'd JT earlier in the year. I thought that was his second TKO, but that's where I was at. It was just, it's interesting that...
But he beat Bateman.
But he did beat Bateman, but the interesting was that, Ghai TKO'd Riley, but now Roca TKO's Ghai because they're the faction mates and all that, blah, blah, blah. So I just need to make that correction.
Blah, 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 Frank Janisch says. I kind of am... I have two sides here. I have two different thoughts on who's going to walk into the Spectacular champion. I could easily see John Roca winning. Mm-hmm. He's motivated. He wants it back. He still hates that he never got to defend the championship successfully, and that eats at him a lot. And I know that does. Mm-hmm. And he's a consummate player, and he needs motivation. Roca's one of those guys. He needs motivation. That's why Mike, we love to have people talk smack about him. He loved to say, 45 isn't like 23. So he throws a 23 jersey on and goes and wrecks shop on the Magic. I mean, it's just what happens. Some of the greats, they need motivation. They need something pushing them. And I think John Roca having this opportunity again and being able to go in there and win and hopefully successfully defend the championship is in his mind. So he wants it back. But at the same time, I have to think that the Beast, William Bibiani, is the favorite going into this match, not just because he's the champion, because I think that over the last year to year and a half, he has been the best player of the two of them. And I know this is a really evenly matched. It could go either way. It's really all going to depend on round number 2. I'm calling that now. It's going to depend on round number 2. I know it's a 5-rounder, but it's going to depend on round number 2. I think that Bibbs pulls it out.
I also think that the speed round, he could be in trouble because of how much experience Roca has in the speed round compared to Bibbs. Bibbs has only been in 1 championship match. Roca's been in 80? So
a few.
Yeah.
A few.
More than a few.
He's been in at least 1 for every year he's been on the earth. So I think that I don't know. I think it's very evenly matched, but right now my gut, and it could change, but my gut says Bibbs.
I think Bibbiani obviously has more knowledge, I think, at his disposal than Roca. But Roca, I think, has learned to temper his emotions in the game, evidence against Andrew Ghai. I think he's really learned how to play the game. And, hear Roca talk about in that interview with him, Bibbiani started winning, he started respecting the game and not being so above everyone else. When he came into the league, it was a funny persona because his first match, he destroys the game. He goes perfect and sets a record. And then he went up and down, or mostly down and a little bit up. And he never ascended to the height that was proclaimed for him. And he went through some tough matches. Roca, I think, recognizes that. And now he sees, now that Bibbiani has the belt, that this hubris is coming back into Bibbiani because he has the belt. And I think Roca thinks that could be a detriment for Bibbiani if that's not put in check. So that'll be interesting to see, though, in the match and in the lead up, if that's true or not for Bibbiani. But Roca, I think it's hard to gauge who wants it more between Bibbs and Roca. I'm not going to even try and figure that out in my head because I think they both equally want it bad, and especially a win over one another adds a little more to it. So, but Roca, I think he has an understanding of the game, how to play it, how to manage it. Whereas I think Bibbiani's his strategy most of the time has just been, I'll just answer all the questions. I'll just answer all of them. But Roca takes it to another level, I feel like, and I don't know that Bibbs will adjust that or not, that kind of thinking. I don't know, but does that even play into whether or not you win a match or not? I don't know, but these are things that I think are going to be going on that will still benefit Roca in winning the match.
Okay, so I agree with a lot, except for this. I know Roca is a smart player, but he is an emotional player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a benefit as well as it could be a weakness in some instances, but I think that it is a benefit. I think, technically speaking, I think Bibbiani is more sound. He's got more knowledge. He's a bottomless pit when it comes to movie trivia. Absolutely. So he's more technical. I think Roca is more intestinal, right?
Mm.
And really what it is it's the champion, Apollo Creed, a.k.a. William Bibbiani, versus the Italian Stallion of Rocky Balboa. This is the matchup that I see. John Roca being Rocky. I see William the Beast Bibbiani.
Which part?
Being Apollo Creed. But the question is it going to be Rocky 1?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be Rocky 2? We're going to have to find out, but it's going to be soon. We're going to find out the answer to these questions soon. It's going to be probably the most highly anticipated championship match of the year, Roca versus Bibbiani. The winner will go into the spectacular as the champion. That is huge. That is huge to end the year, going into the biggest event of the year as the champion. Frank Janisch, I give you the final word. Anything you'd like to say
about this match, or just
in general? Just end it up. Just go home. Go home.
Just go home.
Yeah.
I am home though.
The wrestling term, home. Go home.
Go home.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Well, in regards, I do think this could be one of the all-time matches and title matches, because usually
it's got the potential.
It has potential. Usually, when we say that, though, Harloff and Merle, Levine and Harloff, those were duds. Yeah. Let me tell you, those weren't very entertaining. The skill level wasn't at its peak. Could it happen here? Sure, we've seen some duds from Bibiani, but that's due to, I think, more rushing things and more things that he could control. Roca, again, it also comes from things that he couldn't control as well, his emotions and whatnot. So I think the potential is higher there, maybe. I don't know. This is all just make-believe at this point. I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to this match. I'm actually probably... Am I looking forward to this more than I was looking forward to Roca Ghai? Maybe a little bit. Because this is for a belt.
Well, there's a title on the line.
You know, and it's old blood still in a sense. But, you know, I don't mind it because I just want to see two people with high levels of knowledge going toe-to-toe. I think that's what we got here because I don't think we would have gotten that with Andrew Ghai and Bibiani. One would have the knowledge, one would have the theatrics, and I'll leave it there.
We'll see what ends up, but Frank Janisch, why don't you tell people where they can find you on all social media?
Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29.
And also at sites:// hyphen
Geosites,
Google,
yeah.
Geosites, geocities.com /elementop.org. You can find the Schmoedown stats site there. And Chris Clark, our producer extraordinaire, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisClark8788. Those numbers mean nothing. You can also find me on YouTube at Take 3 Productions, where we will be streaming the first Schmoedown Trivia Schmoedown on Take 3 Productions tomorrow at 8 p.m. EST, so make sure to check that out. It's the first team match.
And October 21st, Frank Janisch and I are going back to the future. We're going to go one-on-one in a Back to the Future trivia challenge. I am excited. We're going to declare the first ever Rundown Schmoedown Back to the Future trivia champion of the world. I'm just throwing that out there. The title is on the line, brother. What, Janisch? What? He's frozen, so he doesn't even matter. That's so great. Oh, what happened? You froze. What did you say, Janisch?
Yeah, Harloff Ellis match.
Oh, yeah. When is that?
It is tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Isn't
tomorrow?
It could be.
Tomorrow? I thought it was today. Who knows?
It's up. It's up at some point this weekend.
That's what
it might be. You can watch it soon.
Point is, join the Patreon at the $10 level. You'll see it immediately. If not, at a lower level, you'll see it 2 weeks from then. But I was there for the match. Check it. I mean, join the Patreon to check it out. Check out this match. Because I don't know how else you're going to see it. And you definitely want to see Christian and Ellis go at it. It's a really great match. It's a really good time. And you won't be disappointed if you spend $10. I'll tell you that.
Okay, pay-per-view style. Well, you can follow me on all social media at Brad Gilmore. Make sure you go to bradjgilmore.com. Get the You're an Idiot. It comes from Upbringing t-shirt. Available now. bradjgilmore.com. For Frank Janisch, for Chris Clark, I am Brad Gilmore. This is the Schmoedown Rundown. And we'll run it down next week, brother.
Dude, are you sending me one of those shirts in the mail? One of those, I'll rep it, free of charge.